Welcome back. We're going to begin Unit 4 of our study, and we're going to be talking about markups as it relates to selling price and as it relates to cost. So with no further ado, let me share this PowerPoint with you, and we're going to begin. And you'll notice that we're working Unit 4, and if you want to reference the content from your textbook, we're finding content in Chapter 12. We'll be talking about markups, markdowns relative to both cost and selling price. So let's begin. And from previous discussions, I'm loath to read these screens to you, but you'll notice that it's a 4-section kind of thing, and we'll probably run a video for each section if we can. And so I would imagine by the end of this particular unit, you'll have 4 separate videos, probably one referencing each section. Here we go. Objectives for you to consider in section 1, which we'll handle in this video, we'll be basing our markups on the cost of the item for the retailer. As we switch out, we'll base our markups on selling price. We'll take a look at how markdowns and perishables might be a factor, and then we'll look at break-even analysis. So that's what we've got going in Unit 4. Some basic terms. Think about selling price as the price that a retailer might charge. So if I were to walk into Target and I want to buy a PlayStation 5, selling price is what they're going to charge me as a purchaser of that item. The cost reference point is how much did Target pay to Sony or to the supplier to get that PlayStation 5 into their store. And then the difference between those two amounts is the markup or margin as it relates to that particular item. In general, you would expect that Target would pay less to get the PlayStation 5 than they would turn around and sell it to me so that they can make a profit on the sale. All right, we're looking at expenses and overhead, referencing things that are costs for that business, things like rent for the warehouse, wages for the employees. You got to have insurance, you have utilities and such. Hopefully, again, from a business perspective, we're talking about profit based on how we sell things and the relative differences between costs and selling prices that we're emphasizing in this particular unit. All right, here we go. Section 12.1, markups based on cost. You're going to handle some formulas as we work through Chapter 12. It's important to realize what you're basing your markup on. In this first section, it's all about cost. So the cost factor would be the 100% amount, and we would modify from there downward or upward, depending on whether it's a markdown or a markup. Some words from your teacher. I'll let you read the screen. Okay, as I said previously in section 1, we'll base our markups on cost. According to the screen in front of you, manufacturers may mark up goods based on costs because they can easily get information about what that number might be relative to the item. Formulas, if you want, we're going to talk about portion and base and rate, which we've done in our percent unit, the part or the whole, if you like those words differently. If you put it in the context of this particular unit, we're talking about a markup in dollars based on a cost for that item in dollars and a markup percentage, and that'll be your decimal value. So you'll, as we work through this unit, you'll see that bottom formula sneaking in quite a bit. As it relates to markup based on cost, it's important to remember that your cost figure is the base number. Okay? The markup dollars simply turn out to be what the cost dollars were and multiplying that by the markup percentage. When we switch out to section 2, we'll see cost replaced by selling price, and we'll base our markups on a different number. But for section 12.1, all those markup dollar figures are a percentage of the cost dollar figure. We should realize that selling price for the items is determined by taking the cost of that item to the particular retailer and then adding the dollar figure that is the markup. If you want, you could abbreviate that middle formula by using S equals C plus M, translates to selling price is equal to cost plus markup. All right, we'll run some examples. We'll make a look at things. Target now is paying $60, so that's their cost for these jeans. They're going to turn around and sell them to me walking into the store for $75, so that's the selling price. And quite frankly, I don't know that you need a formula for this, but if you want one, there it is. all right, you can realize the 75 is a player for selling price and the 60 is a player for cost, and you can calculate the markup in this particular case to be $15. All right, so that takes care of the first question. Second question, what's the percentage markup based on cost? Again, that formula that we had on that previous slide, the dollar figure in markup based on the cost figure looks like this. We knew that the markup was $15. We also realized the cost of the jeans was $60. We're solving for markup percentage. I called it M here. Divide both sides by 60, grab your calculator, and you realize that if we're basing markup percentages on cost, in this particular example, that's a 25% markup based on cost. All right, so you could probably create a new formula if you chose to. And I know some people really they feel comfortable having formulas to interact with. So there's the formula that you and I basically worked through on that last example. Frankly, I think from my perspective as a teacher, it's just as easy to do the algebra involved the way we kind of looked at what we found in the last problem. So if you like formulas, there's one for you. But again, I don't know that I'm going to stand here and say, I think you need to memorize that. I think I can work my way through it. Example 2. Frank's is going to buy an end table. It's going to cost him $400, and he wants to make a desired profit, but he needs an 80% markup on cost. And quite frankly, this problem's pretty clean. You can calculate the markup straight out by taking $400 times 80%, and you realize that Frank's going to want to mark this thing up $320. So that takes care of the first question. The second question, what's he going to sell it for? Again, I think it's pretty intuitive. He's going to add that markup onto what it cost him to get the item. So for those of you who like formulas, there again, your selling price is found by taking the cost and adding the markup. For our particular problem, I chose to show you the 80% of 400. You know, we already knew it was $320. So Frank's going to sell that end table for $720. Again, pretty clean problem. You're basing your markup simply as a percentage of the of the cost. Okay, third example. Dirk sells the tennis racket for $500 and he wants to make a 60% markup on cost. You'll notice that it seems like we don't know the cost of the racket for Dirk. We basically are okay assuming that it's under $500 because Dirk's going to make some bucks on selling this particular item. So we'll start here and we'll realize that the number that we have that we can use is the $500 and it's a value for selling price. Let's let cost be unknown at C, and let's realize that the markup in this case is reflected at 60% of C. And again, welcome to Dell Combines Like Terms, and you've got 1C combined with 0.60C, and you've got 1.60C. Grab your calculator, we're going to divide by 160, and you're going to find that in this case, the cost for that item, the cost for that tennis racket for Dirk was $312.50. A little tougher than the first couple examples, a little algebra here that maybe we didn't get involved in the first couple, but again, I don't think it's anything too painful. The racket cost Dirk's $312.50. To find dollar markup, again, I think it's pretty intuitive. It's the difference between cost and selling price. In formula form, there's your formula, there are the values. I'll let you walk through it, and you realize that in this particular example, the markup is $187.50. And that wraps video 1 from Unit 4. I'll be back soon with video 2 from Unit 4. We'll see you then.